You know a story's getting messy when the biggest threat isn't the guy that can vaporize a mountain with a Bijudama, or an emo-obsessed kid with Naruto, or even a random Otsuki from Earth 1042 suddenly showing up, but instead it's the mom who accidentally fills out paperwork during her interrogation a little bit too honestly. Poor Ino is about to discover that I was just following orders has started more disasters than every villain in anime combined. Kobu isn't looking for a confession anymore. He's looking for one loose thread, because one loose thread is all it takes to unravel the entire sweater known as Shikamaru's tenure as Hokage and treason. And if that's where the story's heading, then Shikamaru's removal as Hokage may not happen because of his enemies. It may be because of the one person that goes back to his childhood that might be trying to protect our family. Join me in today's newest Naruto Explained video, where your OBC, your original Boruto chief, is taking a look at why Kobu's sharp words in this chapter are now putting Ino even more firmly onto snitch watch. Also, if you haven't already and you're a fan of Bleach, don't forget to check out the Every Bankai and Bleach Explained video from my Anime Explained channel. Strongly recommend it, and since it's over an hour long, there are plenty of timestamps. Lastly, with Boruto on break this month, more Patreon exclusive videos will be coming to YouTube a lot sooner than the typical 2 to 6 month exclusive window, like the Kakashi and Kaguya video essay, the Obito video essay, the Hagoromo and Hashirama video, and even the forgotten son of Boruto's anime, Iwabe, is getting some love on the channel too, because we're not going to go 40 days straight of only Boruto manga discussions. We'll be going back to our roots a bit. OG followers from the Kryptonian Saiyan days will definitely appreciate the format, because that is a throwback to how we used to do things. For about a year now, our focus has mostly been on Kobu going after Shikamaru. He's his biggest hater, the way that Shikamaru is Amado's biggest hater. Kobu's mind is already made up, and it's not out of pure hate for Shikamaru. He's just in the position Shikamaru ironically was with Amado. He knew that Amado was lying, but he couldn't prove it in part 1. Kobu knows that Shikamaru is compromised, but he can't prove it. However, he has just enough circumstantial evidence to make a request to the feudal lord that Shikamaru needs to go. Now you have the report of Jiraiya's chakra inside the village and Shikamaru making it classified, which once he's removed, that information will no longer be classified, and it's just going to add to the questions of how much does Shikamaru know and who else knows what Shikamaru knew. That's where the other piece on the board comes into play. Ino. She's quietly become one of the most dangerous people to Shikamaru's Hokage tenure, and it might be the piece that proves Kobu and the elders right, that the successor of the 7th Hokage has had a generational fumble, and even worse, it was a conspiracy and it was intentional. To put this into perspective, how big of a scandal this would be, I want you to close your eyes and imagine for a second. Imagine the 2027 Super Bowl. The Philadelphia Dodo Birds are playing the Buffalo Bills, and they've come back from a 35-3 lead, and it's the last drive of the game, and they just need a touchdown to win. Jalen Hurts drops back to throw it, and then Devontae Smith suddenly stops running his route in the end zone and is picked off in return for a pick 6 to end the game. Then you find out Devontae Smith was secretly paid to throw the game. That'll be enough for the Philadelphia Doodoo Birds franchise to get enraged for him and all their fans to call for his head. Shikamaru working with Boruto is basically that scenario. It's a divine form of betrayal. With Ino, she has all the cards in her possession to make life very uncomfortable for Shikamaru. And under most circumstances, you could count on her not to do that, because it's not in her nature to do that. These, however, are not normal circumstances. These are the most extreme of the most extreme circumstances. One thing that Boruto has shown throughout Boruto 2 Blue Vortex is that Kobu isn't looking for some smoking gun. He's looking for contradictions. Every interrogation has been about comparing stories, looking for inconsistencies, and planting things to see if they sprout later. Based on everything Kobu has seen so far in his short time in the village, he's already correctly concluded Boruto isn't just getting help from Shikamaru. He's getting help from multiple people. Kobu's premise is basically that a fish, its head, rots from the head down. Shikamaru is the head, but he has other co-conspirators that need to be cut too. That matters. It's an enormous statement. It means his investigation has already moved past proving Shikamaru helped Boruto, and now it's using the removal of Shikamaru's Hokage to find out the members of the network. Kobu has already shown us he understands how to read people without tipping his hand. That's dangerous for that reason. An innocent person would be shocked to hear that the Hokage has been removed and accused of treason. It's the person who's quiet or tries to not draw attention to themselves when that happens that you start to single out. If you're Kobu, you start asking those close to Shikamaru. You start looking at his family, Tamari, his wife. It's only natural a husband might confide in his wife, but it's equally possible that he doesn't say anything to her given her standing in the sand village and the issues that might cause, as well as the desire to keep her safe if he ever gets exposed. Then you have his son. You kick the tires there to see if anything shakes loose. He's a smart kid, but he's also young. Young people make mistakes without realizing it. Then you move to the close friends and you eliminate Shoji. His alibi will be eating at some buffet, but Ino is the one that you look closer at. She's not only a close friend, but she's the head of the sensory unit and she's married to the leader of the Anbu, the same Anbu leader who questioned you when you made the case for Shikamaru being removed as Hokage. The logical conclusion would be to take a closer look at Ino given both of those things. That makes Ino a loose end. If Koji knew, he'd send a frog into a room and he would just blow it up. When you look at it from Ino's perspective, think for a moment. She repeatedly told Shikamaru as early as chapter 6 of Boruto 2 Blue Vortex that Shikamaru was asking her to do something that will violate village rules. She was shown repeatedly making faces that made it clear she didn't believe Boruto or even trust him. In her last conversation with Shikamaru, she covered all her bases. She asked him, "Are you making this request of me as a friend or are you making it as the Hokage?" There's a difference, a distinction she intentionally made. It gives her an out if it ever comes down to it. Shikamaru knew what she was doing and didn't force her to comply any further. Yet, unbeknownst to her, he would end up replacing her with her own son. Kobu is going to look into Ino, but by extension, he's going to want to question Inojin as well. As the son of Ino, he would likely view Shikamaru's family, which in Kobu's mind would be enough to wonder if Inojin had been corrupted by all of this as well. Ino might not snitch, but Inojin is not built like that. While he's not the version that we saw in Naruto chapter 700 drawn by Masashi Kishimoto, he does have more backbone, but that boy will talk. When you bring Ino into that room, Kobu has already proven he's really good at reading people, even when they're trying to hide something, even when they don't even realize that they were the ones being used. Ino might have cut bait after helping, but she willingly did so prior. She heard Boruto's story. Shikamaru believed it enough to help him, but Ino wanted nothing to do with it. She called it a crazy hypothesis and own private thoughts. The moment that Kobu starts describing what happened to him, Ino's gonna realize someone used the Yamanaka clan hidden jutsu to take possession of his body, and she's gonna think of her son. He's the only person in their clan Shikamaru could have ever thought about using to help him. Anyone else would have turned it in or they would have documented. If Kobu questions her, she's not walking into that interrogation already committed to protecting Boruto's innocence. She's walking in believing Shikamaru made an incredibly questionable decision. Now, the very thing that she was afraid of, which is Shikamaru getting caught breaking the rules, that's happening. Now she has to think about herself and wonder how much does Kobu know. The fact that she's in that room would mean that she's a suspect, but being a suspect doesn't automatically mean that you've been proven guilty. Yet Ino won't know standing in that moment. That's the danger. That's the position Ino finds herself in. For Ino, that means that she's trapped, especially if she realizes her son's involved. And it goes back to understanding Japanese culture to fully appreciate the dilemma Ino will be walking into if Kobu interrogates her and she realizes midway through that her son is guilty. Western audiences oftentimes think of loyalty as an individual choice. Japanese society, though, has traditionally placed a greater emphasis on the reputation of the family in the group. even more than the value of an individual. That's where, for the most part, our cultures do differ in the West versus Japan, for the most part. There are exceptions, but for the most part, we're talking in generalities. That doesn't mean every Japanese modern family thinks exactly the same way, but the cultural influence does remain strong, and it is frequently reflected in Japanese storytelling, including in series like Naruto and Boruto. In older traditions, especially with the way that old way of thinking still exists in traditional homes, a person's actions are reflected on their household, not just themselves. If one family member disgraced the family, everyone carried part of that burden. That disgrace can be used against you socially, but also professionally. Certain types of shame, they can stain a family long after the original event. It sucks, but it happens. That concept survives today, but in different forms, particularly in expectations around responsibility, apology, and protecting the family reputation. Now think about who Ino is in the Naruto world. She's not simply just a mother. She's the head of the Yamanaka clan. That changes everything. Being the head of a clan in Naruto is not just a ceremonial title. It's a political position inside of a military village, and it's also a family position. While she isn't part of one of the 4 noble clans of Konoha, the Yamanaka clan do have a very important role. They are tasked with keeping the village's sensory unit running. As a clan leader, your actions don't just reflect you, they reflect everyone inside the clan. That was a big part of the cultural motivation behind what Sasuke meant when he said restore the Uchiha clan. It wasn't repopulate like people will still say in 2026. It was about restoring the honor of the clan that he originally believed Itachi dishonored, and did so by being a clan killer, and then restore the honor of the Uchiha just took on multiple different meanings. A whole video breaking that down will be linked in the description box. There's another cultural layer though that I do think many Western fans do tend to overlook. In Japan, there traditionally has been a strong expectation that people cooperate with legitimate authority, particularly when it comes to formal investigations and official proceedings. And with Kobu, he is, by extension, the feudal lord here, because anything he says inside of Konoha as the chancellor of the feudal lord should be treated as it's an order from the feudal lord. That doesn't mean everyone just complies blindly, and modern Japan is far more nuanced than the stereotypes, and different types of traditions have evolved, but social harmony, fulfilling one's duty, and maintaining institutional trust, those are still influential values. Whether those decisions, even the weight of family honor, is something that you believe is important, depends on how you view things, but I do feel those cultural nuances that we brought up are important. They are slipped into Naruto's manga intentionally, and by extension Boruto. For Ino, being outed helping Shikamaru assist a traitor who killed the 7th Hokage brings about dishonor. She may be able to plead the case of blurred lines, helping a friend and not knowing that she was going to be in contact with Boruto, the Hokage traitor, but by that point, she was just going along with the Hokage, and she quickly cut ties with the situation soon afterwards, and that may work. She is a sympathetic witness. However, as she pieces together her son was helping Boruto too, now she has to think about the moral lines that she has to walk, because her son is endangering the future of the clan, because one day he'll be the next head of the clan. Someone like Kobu may even use that against her if he gets the inkling that she is guilty of helping Shikamaru. Kobu doesn't come right out and say that he thinks you're guilty. That conversation with Shikamaru, that was an outlier. Everything else shows how he builds towards it. He takes the approach of let someone get enough rope that they hang themselves. Kobu watches reactions. Kobu uses logic. Those two things combined make for a deadly combination. If he even suggests Ino might have unknowingly assisted Shikamaru in aiding Boruto, that might be enough to cause that one split second where her eyes give her away. She's no longer thinking about protecting Shikamaru at that point, despite their decades-long friendship. she's thinking about protecting Inojin. That's not betrayal, which if she does end up snitching, a large chunk of the fandom will say that she sold Shikamaru out. Instead, that is motherhood. And with characters in this series like Ino, who are in their mid-30s, Ino's 36 right now, these characters have kids. You have to view it from that perspective of being a parent. Having kids changes your perspective on how you view things, as does having children who may not be your own, but you are responsible for them. You make decisions you normally wouldn't make because it's not about you anymore. It's about them, even when they don't know it themselves. Kobu bringing Ino in there could be as simple as asking her questions on how the Yamanaka clan's jutsu, the various different ones, work, and he would correctly assume that as part of the Ino Shikacho trio, Shikamaru would have known all those nuances as well. He began poking holes in the jutsu to see if there was any set of techniques that the Yamanaka clan passed down to their clan members that would fit in the scenarios that he is drawing up in his head. You have to remember, Kobu is looking at the puzzle that he's putting together. He can clearly see what the picture will be. He's got all the pieces, but he doesn't know where the ones in his hand truly fit in. It's just trial and error when you get that close. For Kobu, Ino might be one of those missing pieces, and for Ino, she may realize her son is one of those missing pieces as well. At that point, she has to decide how far she's willing to go to save her child, potentially from himself. And it makes you look at Kakashi's words in Naruto Volume 2 to Team 7 that he originally took from the flashback in Naruto Volume 27, where Obito said people who turn their back on their friends are worse than scum. Now we have to ask the question, is Ino scum or is she simply a mother? Time will tell. Obviously, if you enjoyed this video, consider subscribing, clicking on the left, check out this Naruto Explain video, or click here on the right to check out that Bleach video I was talking to you guys about earlier.